Hi folks, back today with a much shorter video, I believe. This one we're going to cover floating selvedges. So the first thing you might want to ask is, why do I need a floating selvedges? When do I need a floating selvage? Typically, you're going to find out that a pattern is going to tell you you need to use one. If you're working with rigid Heddle patterns in particular, folks are usually pretty cognizant that that's not something we often use, although often is a relative term. So if you're doing something though like a twill pattern where you're doing, the pattern is moving, if you're working overshot, if you're working any of the structures like honeycomb, where you have a yarn that's going to be used infrequently, or there's going to be some sort of drawing or pattern created that way, you're going to want to use a floating selvage. So today I have my loom warped and threaded at this point for a twill pattern. This is one I'm working on. This is a sample for a design I hope to come out with soon. And I know it's a twill. I know that because you're going over one and under two, it's that under two that can kind of catch you up, because if you throw your pick in the wrong shed and you hit that over one, you've drawn your thread in on the side by two threads. It just makes a really nasty mess. So the way to avoid that is to use a floating selvage. I typically match my floating selvages to the outer threads of my project. So in this case, my outer warp thread on the right is this Beauty Rose, and the outer thread on the left is a chocolate brown. So when I cut my floating selvages, I cut a single strand. My warp is 2 strands of the chocolate, 2 strands of the Beauty Rose, but I'm going to, just for the floating selvage, you simply need a single strand. The idea is that this sort of melts into your warp and isn't going to stick out. A floating selvage literally floats outside the warp. Now on floor looms, sometimes people will tie their floating selvages on with their warps. I personally like them to be floating, and we're going to talk about how that happens here. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to tie a single strand, and this strand is about as long as my warp. So I'm just going to tie this on my front apron rod here, and then I'm going to take my threading hook and I'm going to look for the next empty slot outside of my warp. So I'm not sharing a thread with my warp, or a slot with my warp. I'm threading this through the next slot on the outside, except I dropped it. You want it right up next to your warp. You don't want it to be in your warp. So, okay, now I've got it threaded on the right side and you can see there's a straight line here all the way through my heddles out to the back. And then on the back, I'm going to tie a slip knot and add an S-hook. S-hooks are a really useful weaver's tool. I basically carry them around with me in 2 sizes. I have a small one. This is what I usually use. If I just have a little bit of a tension problem on a single warp thread, I might throw the little one on there. But for floating selvages, I like them to have some weight, so I use this larger S-hook. So I'm going to take this tail now that's going to hang over the back of my back bar. I'm going to tie just a quick slip knot in here. I don't want a permanent knot because I may have to move my floating selvage. And I'm going to tie that S-hook on, and I'm going to drop it over the back. And it's going to sit there and twirl for a while. So now I have this thread that's independent of my warp. It's in a slot and it's literally just loose here. And then I'm going to put one on the other side as well. Very, very, very seldom do you have a project where you only need a floating selvage on one side. Now, if you're working something, and sometimes people say, oh, just go around the last warp thread to anchor or to do whatever, and that is true. If you're anchoring a thread, you can do that, but if you truly need a floating selvage on something like a twill on another project, you really do need a floating selvage. Just wrapping around that last warp thread is probably not going to be enough. So again, I'm trying to get the last empty slot. This is a sample to see if the structure of my fabric is going to be what I want it to be. I've tied my slip knot. I'm gonna anchor it down. Now, you know, I've given myself basically a yard here of weaving before I'm gonna hit the point at which this S-hook is gonna try to pull over the back beam. Let me see if I can get the back beam fully in the picture here. So you can see as I keep weaving and winding onto the front, that S-hook is eventually gonna get up into here somewhere. And that's not a useful point for me. Having it come over the back beam isn't gonna help me. I don't want it hanging off back here. So if I were weaving and I had wound all my threads that far, then I could just take this S-hook out. These things typically do a little bit of twisting and move it down further. As long as it's not dragging on the floor so that it's not actually adding the weight, you're perfectly fine. And then just move that little slip knot down, tie it off, and just keep weaving. So I'll do that again. I've tied it on to my left side. I'm gonna throw that over the back. I'm going to go ahead and get my weaving set up, and then I will demonstrate how you will use the floating selvages as you're weaving. Okay, well, aren't you folks lucky? Because I broke a warp thread. And since replacing a warp thread is much like replacing or putting in a floating selvage, we'll just go ahead and demonstrate that now as well. So the warp thread I broke is this one right here. I actually broke one of the 2 strands in my warp. Even if it was just misthreaded, I would do the same process. I would still cut the thread, remove it, and then treat it like it was a broken warp thread. The first thing I have to do is get the thread out in this case. Since the 2 strands are broken, or the 1 strand is broken and the 1 is not, I can still see where it goes. I'm just gonna let that broken end on the back just float over the back. It's not weighted or anything. It's just gonna just keep unrolling as we go. And now I'm gonna come down here and see where my warp thread came from. And it's this one right here. So I'm really close to the beginning of my weaving, obviously. I'm going to come in here. I'm not going to untie my bout because my tension's pretty good. I've got decent tension here. Obviously, since we did the floating selvages, I've done a little bit of weaving, brought my warp together pretty much. Again, this is a sample, and at this point, I'm just kind of going with rough and ready. I have cut a replacement doubled warp strand. So I was using 2 strands of 8/2, and I've got it looped at this end. I think for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to take one end and wrap it. You could tie this if you wanted to, but since I need 2 ends, I'm going to take it and put it around my apron bar, sorry, and then just use the loop of where it's doubled as my anchoring point. So I brought my ends together, and now I've got this. So if I were to pull this all the way through, it should, see how it's going to anchor like that. It's not going to be tied in, it's not going to be tensioned in, but that's okay because we're going to tension it off the back. So now I'm going to thread this doubled end into a tapestry needle, and this is just a blunt tapestry needle, probably a size 20. Not that the size matters, but tapestry needles do come in sizes. The smaller the number, the larger the eye, so that kind of helps. I like the metal ones because they give me a little more rigidity. And then I'm going to follow this particular warp threads pattern up through the waist yarn. So I'm just going to mimic this. I can see I've come over here, so I need to start over and then go under these 2. And this is a 2-1 twill. So over 1 under 2 makes a ton of sense. And I'm going to follow this up. Let's see. Granted, I doubt that this was actually weaving correctly. So we're going to go under that one and over the pink. And we'll go under the pink, over the pink, under these 2, and over. I doubt it was weaving correctly, but again, this is the selvage end of my weaving, so I'm not particularly worried about it. What I want to see in the sample when I'm done is going to be on up. All right, I have all these ends here, of course, trying to get in the way. Okay, so now I have my new warp thread mimicking the pattern of this broken thread. So now I can come through and pull this broken thread back. If I were replacing this in the middle of my project, I would not be pulling this broken thread back. I would leave it in and have them overlap. And it would be sort of like doing a split ply join in the middle of your project, except we're doing it in the warp. But since I can get it out, I'm going to go ahead and pull this back out just a little bit. There we go. So this is the broken warp thread that I don't need. This is the new one. And the question is, let's see, I've gone under 2, so let's say I go over 1 and come up under 1. I don't really remember. I don't know what the pattern is, but I know I've had a mistake, so I know I'll be able to go ahead and figure that out. From here on, it should weave properly. So now I'm going to come through and thread this correctly, which means going through a slot in the back heddle and a hole in the front, which is what I have now done. So now I won't have any problems. And I'm just going to pull this doubled thread through the hole in the front and through the slot in the back. There we go. And I can see now that that thread has a clear path and I shouldn't have any more problems. Now I'm going to take my S-hook, and just like I did with my floating selvedges, I'm going to tie a slip knot here, weight this off the back, and now that thread should act or move pretty much like the rest of the threads in the warp. So now we can go ahead and start using these floating selvedges. As you can see, I started using them at the very beginning with my scrap waste thread that I was putting in to try to bring my warp together, and I have been using them. So my next pick is to bring this back heddle up. I'm ready to use the pink. So what I need to do now, because here's what's going to happen. If I stick this pink into this warp, I'll just demonstrate it without using the floating selvage. What's going to happen here is it's going to create this kind of angle over, because not only is it going over this last warp thread, but it could in fact be going over more than one thread there at that point. So the floating selvage basically gives us the option to anchor it at the edge properly. So I'm going to go under the floating selvage, and this is why having it weighted and loose is helpful, because I can just lift it up. I'm going to go under the floating selvage and over the one on the other side. My general pattern is to go in, under, because I can remember I in, under, I in, and you in, under. It's in, under, I go under. It works for me mnemonically. And then go out the over. It doesn't matter if you go in, over, and out, under. As long as you're consistent all the way through and you're catching that thread, it doesn't really matter. So my next pick is to have my front heddle up, and I'm going to go, change colors, because this is a shadow weave. In, under, out, over this one. Usually you have to manipulate them at the beginning of each pick. A lot of times the out, over, I didn't wrap my threads properly. That will be a separate video where I'll talk about how I carry them up the sides. But right now I'm just trying to get, I've got too many moving parts to do that all at once. Is that how I want that? Sure. Okay. And then my third pick, or my next pick, pick 9, is to have both heddles down. I'm going to take the pink. Now this time with the heddles down, because my floating selvages are in the slots, they are both raised. So I'm going to take the pink in under the one on the right and out over the one on the left, and I'm going to have to manually hold that down to bring that pink out over that. Okay. And then you just continue. So every pick, as you go in and out, you're going to go in under, and out over. So I'm going to go in under with the brown this time and out over the pink. And you can kind of pull on this, I mean, whatever technique you find gives you good selvages, just use that with your floating selvage in addition to the outer warp thread to make things work. Two, okay, and we'll go in under. And that's all there is to floating selvages. They're really not that much of a mystery. At the end of the video, I'll try to include some still photos where I'll indicate like projects that have required a floating selvage and what in particular about them made them need the floating selvage. In this case, it's because we are going over one under two, and it's at various points in time you can see that if I didn't have this floating selvage out here, things would get a little wonky. As it is, we have the carry, which is in the project anyway, but because of the two colors. And that's all it is for floating selvages, and bonus, you got to see me replace a warp thread. So I hope you found that helpful. Just remember, it's consistency with the floating selvage. In, under, out, over, or in, over, out, under, it doesn't matter. If you get it wrong on a pick, as long as the next time you go around the floating selvage, either direction, it will anchor your thread properly. Also, though, remember if you need to unweave. So for instance, I think my last pick was you'll have to do it in reverse, and that can sometimes throw you because you're like, oh, I caught a floater, or I did something wrong, or that wasn't the right pick, and then you go in under because you get in the habit, and then you've caught your floating selvage again. So just remember the reverse is to come out backwards. So that's always kind of a fun thing to remember as you're unweaving. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know, hey, this is the video I've always been looking for, or hey, I have a question about fill in the blank, and could you help me out with that or do a video on that technique? So just let me know what you'd like to see, and thanks so much for joining me here at Mingo's Corner.